Boom.
Okay.
Okay. So welcome to Soulspeaks 5D. We have a very special show today. I'm actually nervous. I don't know why. And I think it's probably because of what Anna Reynolds represents. Because, you know, I mean, I think over the years, because I've had a lot of people, they'll say, even when I ask them to come on, they'll be like, oh, I'm not like all those people that come on your show and they know this and they know that. And I'm always like, what are you talking about? Because the gist of the conversations is typically around their personal experience, even though they may have other things to offer. But I realized, especially after doing the Soulspeaks, launching the Soulspeaks network independently, and working, and kind of getting your feet wet the first 100 days. And, it was a whirlwind anyway, March, April, and May, and June. And I started to realize who, more than ever, I'd already seen it, but who are these people? Who is Soulspeaks? And it's all of us, but there is a kind of not, I don't say stereotypical, but a typical scenario. Just like we have the scenario where people come on the show over the years, like I was awake when I was born, then something happened and got shut down, then I had a bunch of traumas and I came back, and everyone has that same story. My family that disowned me and all those different things.
Yeah.
Well, I got a closer look as we started to focus on the mechanics of the site, of the software, of what we can do and what we can't do, what we need to be able to do and why. And I got a second wave of revelation, understanding that 85–90% of Soulspeaks now and before has been Anna Reynolds and those like her. They're typically 40 and over, 35, 40 and over, feminine, tapped in to a greater degree than I ever thought I was. And I know I'm tapped in, but they have something different. They have something that they have the mother. They are the mother. And I realized that whatever we do with the Soulspeaks Network, and as people will see with the Soulspeaks Festival, those same energies will be the ones that will be seen. And probably not the biggest names out there, but names that you're familiar with that carry that same energy, and we need to be exposed to it. And so this is why it's special for me. Now, Anna Reynolds, we've become acquainted a bit on a personal level. I think we had one video call and we've had messaging back and forth, and she shares intel with me, which I really appreciate. But I'm excited to kind of dive into the who, what, when, and where. And I'm really, really grateful that you're here. And I really want to just say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming in and sharing space and really honoring us with your presence, because it is an honor for me. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Todd. Yeah, it's one of those things I've heard many of your guests mention. Then they know that it's coming, being on your show. And I felt that, I felt that, and it was really strange because I'm in the background, right? I like it there. I don't, I don't seek being out and seen. But it felt like that it's coming. And, I try to get out of my own way, get out of resistance and allow it, because that's where the most ease is, as you know probably yourself. When we resist, it's just everything gets tougher, and when we flow with it, it's when we are taken to the right place and the right time, right? And it feels, moving here today feels like the right place and the right time. So I'm also grateful to be here and to have this conversation today.
Well, I mean, you and Sarah Jane have been amazing. Many people have, but we all know that for all the expansion that we're having, we have challenges as well. And these challenges that we're meeting now are, we could say in so many words, matters of the heart. And so being able to tap into the mother goddess, which is I've been doing consciously since 12 years ago. Tomorrow, starting tomorrow, 12 years ago when I went on the streets.
Well,
It's not
yeah.
something it's not something I'm unfamiliar with, but to be able to engage and interact and with the physical representations of her
Mhm.
is something that I know is expanding in my life. And it's not just Sarah and Anna, it's a whole bunch of them. It's been happening. It happened at the first Soulspeaks Fest. I saw it then. I saw it, through other Soulspeaks events as time went on. But I don't see it as being something unique to me. I feel that this is what's happening worldwide. That in all the different circles, she's standing. And it's not a militant mother goddess. It's not a feminist type of mother goddess. It is the mother. It is the
Yeah.
mother who speaks few words. It's the mother who holds space. It's the mother who is the creator.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, the divine feminine, right? The one that nurtures, receives, creates that space, safety, the heart.
right.
That's what, when people have these recollections of who they were in different lives and different identities beyond this one, I have tried, so to speak, to find out who am I beyond here, and the answer was always the same, and it always came as love, right?
Right.
So, and at first it was sort of frustrating. Like, all these people have, this knowledge of this and that. But I always been told that's irrelevant. All you are is love. And really that's the only thing you need to know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel, I grew to understand it deeper and deeper. And I know that what I represent, and not just me, but one of many, is that, is that divine feminine, the mother, the force, that is love, that is the space, the holder.
Yeah, the everything, the space in between, like the
Yeah.
atom, I would say like the atom, the atom is what, 99.7% empty space, and that's the mother. We're the
Yeah.
little electrons and the protons, and yeah. And it's a beautiful thing. I look for it every day. And what I mean by that is in my work, I look for it. I look for, podcasts that have females running,
Yeah.
or I look for that type of energy coming out on a podcast. I see it, and most of them are men hosts, but I'm starting to see some of that I've been following. They're starting to have this influence. In fact, one of them would be Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan was a Navy SEAL, and I don't really listen to the ones where they're talking about the killing and stuff, although some of them are they have some depth and they have some epiphany type frequencies in it. But about a couple of weeks ago, he came out with his wife, and they did this whole thing that was about their fate and about their journey. So there it is, right? It's coming. It's coming, and it's not something we've seen yet. We're just starting to see it.
Yes, because it's like the feminine, the rise of the feminine, or I would also say the landing of the divine feminine, has prepared a safe landing for the masculine.
Yeah.
And or rising, it's both ways. We know how it, it's both rising and grounding. And we are seeing that too now, right? And it's all playing in so many dynamics, in so many different areas and arenas. And it's just so incredible to observe. It's like you know how we used to, well, how we've been getting all these insights of what's going on, and it was always just energetic, right?
Right.
We knew it's the truth, you know.
Mm,
People could tell us no, it's not, but you know the truth, right?
right.
And then there is this shift when it becomes physical, when we see the evidence. And it's not for the I told you so element of it at all. It's just for the homecoming. I
Yeah.
would say that's what it feels like, right? The homecoming, that the merge of what we know beyond the physical with the physical, and becoming one in that way, within us and outside, right? It's
Yeah.
an incredible process.
You, God, you said a lot there. Because there's one of the things that, that I don't, that when I say I don't believe, we're just starting to see this. Now, that's not to say that we haven't had people on this show or the other shows that where, this same energy has been presented is coming out. I'm talking about it in a different way. I'm talking about it, you know, it's where there's, okay, it's something that I can only go back to Lemuria and remember. It was a scenario. I mean, these words are just really fruitless, but obviously it was a matriarchal scenario, but
Yeah.
that sounds like it, you know, that like patriarchals we know is an imbalanced 3D thing, and matriarchal, if you compare it, it would sound like, oh, it's lopsided, but it wasn't. It wasn't, because I remember it very clearly, and I remember the way it operated. And if you looked at like indigenous tribes, Aboriginal tribes, where they have the 13 grandmothers and that type of thing,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It still lived through, even though there was a lot of suppression of the goddess and so on. But what I'm seeing and what I'm saying is that what's coming to the surface is their pure transmissions, their pure information and coding that is applicable to the evolution of ourselves and the earth. So what am I saying here? Well, what I'm saying here is that because of the level of expansion that we've had in our collective consciousness, and so many of them are reflecting this now from themselves, their peace, right, is it's the transmissions are not clouded, they're not shadowed, they're very, like you said, you know the truth, you can sense the truth, it's innate, they're unobstructed, they're from the core of the heart, they don't carry any programming. And I'm not saying that the expressions that came prior to 2023 were bad in any way, but we were all in a different place at that time. And so,
they were appropriate for then.
right.
But as we go, right,
Yeah.
each moment carries new truth, and I feel a stronger truth right now because it resonates more and more and more. A calling is stronger and stronger because the channel gets clearer and clearer as we clear out and let go of things that are not good for us any longer, that served us before. They were great. They were, we should all appreciate everything that we've gone through because that's what it, required to take us here.
That's right.
And and it goes as far as, different civilizations that we've had here. We've taken the best, the purest, the essence, and we've taken it, to here to now.
Right on. Yes. Yeah, that's, it was one thing for things to be shared, light language to be shared, channelings to be shared, as people started to, get like from the last 10 years, and we started to figure out, oh, well, what's light language and what's ascension and what's this and what's that. But this thing that's happening now is like a timeless type of frequency. It's like the one that never left us. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. And that's kind of what I'm referring to. And so what does that mean? That means that that part of us that they represent is now able to share openly
Mhm.
Okay. And that's becoming a force on this earth that nothing can F with. I mean, it's just happening.
Yeah.
It's just happening. So it's really, and I get intrigued because there's a lot of talk about masculine and feminine, and
Yeah.
over the years, and we've talked about it on the show. And
Mhm.
and I've noticed as we've gotten into this year, especially, it's gotten really loud as everything's gotten loud. And I'd just like to know, like, what's your take on it, what's your perspective, or even your experience, if you have any experience with it, because
Yeah.
you do come across extremely, I'll say extremely, your feminine is very much out there.
Mhm.
It's very soft, it's very out there. So what does that mean? To me, it means that we're starting to rely on our intuition,
Yeah.
uh, and we're starting to make decisions based on that, and not the old paradigms, process of validation and truth and rationale, right?
Mhm.
So my question is, what I was going to say is, what I've noticed this year as everything's gotten louder is to be able to see, uh, the distortion we associate with gender. So like male distortion, or masculine distorted, or feminine distorted, but seeing them in men and women. And I
Yes.
and I just wonder, with being able to sit with someone like you,
Mhm.
what are you seeing there? Are you like, what's going on there with the masculine and the feminine? And I'm in a masculine body, you're in a feminine body, yet all of this exists in us. That mother that we're talking about is in me too, just as it is in you.
Yes.
But you happen to be carrying, like,
Mhm.
there's certain things I carry out front, there's certain things you carry out front. Like, what's your take on that? Because it just seems to me that the at the core of separation has been the battle of the sexes. And I go back to Lemuria, when the break happened, and I remember it and understand it. Are we coming back? uh Anything you
Yeah.
can offer on this part of it, because it's a big
Gosh,
challenge
that's
for.
a big, yeah. It's a big one. Such a deep and, to me, very fascinating subject. Um, because observing it over the years, the dance, in a way, the dance of the feminine and
Mm,
masculine, the rising, or rather falling away of what we are not, has been very interesting to observe, even within myself, right? So for myself, it's hard to look at yourself and judge yourself, or discern yourself accurately, or objectively. But I've been very much focused on science and things like that as I was growing up. I have a degree in environmental protection, which is very much science-based. So I was very masculine in terms of my mind and the way I was thinking and functioning. I believe I've always carried this very feminine essence, and that's never changed. But through my awakening, I was catapulted into my feminine.
wow.
Right, in my trauma, the pain I was experiencing, as we all do, we sort of leave our body and get connected to these higher elements of us.
Mm,
And so I was stuck very much ungrounded in that realm, so to speak, for quite a few years, you know. And I value that very much, because it brought me to my connection with myself, with my higher self, with the spirit within me, and gave me a whole new perspective. As you know, because many of us went through this whole awakening, and that's where we sort of go for a while. And it was a long exploration, a lot of time spent in solitude. I mean, we had COVID through this too, so that sort of aided that. But then I've noticed this element of me grounding, right? Of me then, after that process of what I felt was reconnecting with that divine feminine energy within me, I started walking back down with that feminine to meet the masculine, the grounded energy, the logical, the structured. So from that blob of a thing that I was, and I'm saying this with love, right? But the feminine is this energy that is so expansive. It's amazing. It's such a beautiful force, but it needs a form. To be anything, it needs the masculine to keep it in a certain form, right? So it's that element that is necessary. But there had to, for me anyway, be this process of exploration of what it is to be formless, what it is to be just, in meditation a lot, in connection a lot, with very little structure, with a lot of flowing, which feminine is, really about. And letting go of all resistance, being this softness, this receptivity. And then which connects with the process of my own journey with my, masculine counterpart, the mirror, right? I feel that that's an element that a lot of go through within themselves and with the external mirrors, where we at some point activate each other, and we begin this process where one is grounding, the feminine is going to meet him, right? Essentially to meet that energy and embody the masculine within her. And the masculine does the same, just the opposite way, right?
Yes.
He then gets connected to his heart,
right,
and starts going up and up and up, floating up to embrace his feminine. So it goes within and without, and it goes, as far as the whole collective goes. And that's where I feel we are. We are at this point where we are meeting in the middle. We are meeting in the middle where the feminine is grounded, because this is what happened for me, right? From that very formless, structureless, energy, I became very embodied, business focused, I've embodied, and I guess embodied is a good word. The masculine, divine masculine within me. I'm not saying it's complete, right? I'm not saying that the process is complete. But after doing that, I've realized that I can be easily both. I am both, right? And there is no, the expansion. You can be businesslike and yet have your heart wide open and encompass your reality with that, right? Be receptive and yet be direct.
Right.
Flow and yet take action. That beautiful balance.
Yeah.
It can happen within you, right? And then it reflects outside of you. So it plays out, as you know, you are yourself in that sort of dynamic. So you know that it plays within and without.
Yeah. I like how you put that. I was doing that show with Ty Monday, and I was listening to it last night when I was working, because I was going to cut pieces out, and because it was all freestyle, and I said, have you ever just laid down and run your hands down your sides? I don't know where it went, but it was like, basically I was talking about making love, my masculine and my feminine making love. And I don't know, it was at the end of the session, and it's great for me to do those shows, or do those experiences, whether they're broadcast or not. We always broadcast them, but because I find that I can go into this place, and I guess that song at the end was describing it. It's where they both live. It's where they're making love. And I think I even said that. I think I said making love is our frequency, or something like that. And I was trying to get to express this point that you're talking about. And more than ever, I realized since Monday, like Monday, 4 days, right? Because I've contemplated this, and I've written some stuff that it truly truly, beyond words, beyond new ageisms and all that, it truly happens in ourselves first
Mm-hmm.
before
Yeah.
anything else. So we can be in a relationship, we can be in a solid relationship, we can be, a powerful, the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, you're not there yet. We're never going to get there. It's like we're always there. It's like these
Yes, we're
cycles
always
are
there and we are not, right? It's
right,
both.
right. And so so if I had sacred union within myself, which I did as a soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before I came
Yeah.
in, now I lose my memory, I forget. I feel that like what we're doing is expanding that which we came in with. So reaching that point Monday night of my two halves making love to each other in the core of my heart, right?
Yeah.
Is something that I realize was, I don't want to say a first, but it was a new level. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's going to have an effect on my experience, right? I just know
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's when we're not there, the external reflects that, right? And we
Yeah.
go to our corners.
Yeah, go to our
Our shit
corners.
out, right?
Well, that's what we do. We go to our corners and there's a whole, like the pendulum, swinging back and
Yeah.
forth.
Well, the thing is, in essence, we always here and there, right? You always can, even when you're there, you can tap into that moment, that feeling of being right here, right? So it's all present. It's just our work to let everything fall away that isn't this. And that's how we go, I guess, up. Again, the directions here are just very irrelevant because it depends where you're looking from.
As long as I've known you, when I say that, I'm talking about like in the fight, in this energy that we've had these last few years,
Yeah.
because knowing you can be reading a message, seeing a comment, looking at your picture, when it passes by on the news feed, and then of course having a conversation we've had, and some communication through messaging. Again, kind of going back to what I started the show with, you seem to have, and now I find it very fascinating that you said you were masculine and where you came from, supposed to be in a scientific, in the scientific world, but like you just, when I look at your energy and those like you, I just see this softness, this relaxation kind of vibe, this not going to get upset, not gonna, I'm just showing up here. I've kind of figured it out enough to know I can carry this frequency and sustain it all day long, pretty much. I know we all have our moments, but what I'm trying to say is, especially after hearing what you said, how long have you been like this? Because if you were in academia and in the workforce, and you were trained in a scientific fashion, that is very masculine. We know that. Now you come into this place, and it amplifies your feminine, and then that dance starts, and here you are. Because every time I talk to you, every time I pick up your energy and those like you, it's just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's very familiar. It just feels, like I said, it feels like, I'm not gonna say that you don't worry about anything. I'm just saying that you got the right perspective, and that can, to me, can only come from the allowance of that higher women, female intuition being allowed to drop in now. I mean, was that a struggle for you? Did it take a long time? Did you have fits and spurts? Did you go through tough times and dark nights, or was this kind of, oh, you did?
Yeah. It's a probably very similar journey to what a lot of us had, which is, when I was little, I could see things, I could sense things. But so I was raised in a very Catholic family. And which is strange because people who believe in things that are beyond here didn't believe that I could see things beyond beyond here, right? So I could see people that, you know, passed on. I remember being able to see this woman in my parents' house that has drowned, right? While being very little. And she used to be in my parents' bedroom. She used to sort of appear there, and they would be like, no, nothing's there. And they would just like, look, nothing's there. And they would just sort of push me towards it. And, you know, I can see her, which was very scary to, you know, as you can imagine for me. I was, you know, I don't know, 6, 7 years old. So it creates such fear in me that I ended up just closing my eyes, my physical eyes, which is interesting, my physical eyes. And I was telling my mom that I'm just going to be, you know, you led me to whichever room I need to be in. I don't want to open my eyes. I don't want to see it again. So that was like a physical manifestation of what happened later, that I did shut down my abilities. That also has to do, I went to the exorcist and things like that.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Went to an exorcist? Jesus.
Yeah, because, okay, so
how old were you?
So it kept reopening, right? It kept reopening, and so okay, it's, you know how this is gonna sound funny, because you know how people when they grow up they want to be like, I don't know, a fireman and or a doctor, right? So my dream was to be a saint.
A saint?
Yeah, that was like my dream job in the future, right? That's what I'm gonna do.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
And so when I was growing up, when I was like a teenager, young teenager, I asked God in prayer, right? I said, if there are people who are on the verge, because I was still functioning in that paradigm of, you know, Christianity, you know, Catholicism. So if there are people that are on the verge of hell, that just need that nudge of the edge, you know, so they don't go to hell, to save them from that, I want to help them. So I would go, when I was going to sleep, I would lay there in my bed and I would pray for them. And I would, you know, I'd ask, you know, assign some of them to me, and I'll do that. And soon I realized that there were so many beings that appeared at my bed. The presence was so heavy. It was quite overwhelming for me. So I was like, okay, I've asked more than, you know, this is more than I bargained for. But I carried on for a while. But as I see it now from this perspective, is because I was putting so much work and love into that, there was an element of darkness, as you know, we were playing still in that paradigm, that wanted me to be scared, to create the fear. And you know, I started seeing things that were quite, you know, horrifying to me. And that carried on. So this is now at the point where I'm at the university and I'm on my own, and I'm seeing these things constantly, and it's becoming really overwhelming. I can't sleep, I can't function properly, I can't get to my classes on time.
Wow.
So I go to the exorcist, right? And I say, I don't understand why I'm seeing these things. It's scary and overwhelming, and I've got no support. I've got nobody to talk about this with. And this was this old, close to 100-year-old man, exorcist, a priest.
Wow.
And he said to me, it's a gift.
Really?
Yeah. He said to me, it's a gift. You have a gift of seeing things that are beyond here. It's a gift. God gave you this gift. But at that point, I was in such a low mental state. It was so scary for me for so long. I was so battered in a way that at that point I said, he asked me, it's a gift, which means that you can ask for it to be taken, you know, which, because I was so scared and alone with it, I said, I think I have to, for this moment, I think I have to.
Take it away.
Yeah. And he gave me this ring. I mean, the rosary bead, like a rosary beads ring that he blessed with exorcism. So he says, you would be protected. But if you want this gift to be taken away, that can be done. And like magic, we know it's not magic. Or rather, it is the way we understand it. It was taken away. Nothing happened. But from that point onwards, I experienced such disconnection.
Disconnection.
Yeah, that I became so numb because I didn't realize how much connection I've actually had through that. That the scary things were scary things, right? But
Yes.
there was a whole lot of things that I was getting, a whole lot of love and support that I was receiving that way, that I sort of voluntarily shut away at that point. So yeah. But I think I just sort of want to go back to a time, probably when I was 17 or 18, and I was sort of seeking who I wanted to be, if I wanted to like have a normal sort of life, or if I wanted to be a nun, right? I actually considered being a nun at that point. So I went to this silent retreat, and at the last day, they prayed over me. And then suddenly I felt this heat, a bit like a hot water was just thrown at me, like somebody spilled a bucket on top of me. And this lady bent over and she said, Jesus is wanting to talk to you. And that hasn't happened for anyone there. So I was like, what's going on? But I'm feeling all this energy. And she said, he's saying that when you follow the path of love, you will reach the complete fulfillment of everything, right? Which was very powerful for me. And to be honest, that sort of set me on track. So even in those moments where I got disconnected, well, sort of voluntary again, right? Quite many years, I had that at the back of my mind. So I kept that as my guide, and I still followed that. So yeah, there is a big chunk. I'm just gonna like sort of skip over it because it's not as relevant. But I did have my awakening just much later on. I think it was 2017. So many years later. And then everything sort of came back, all the me's from all these stages of my life sort of started merging and getting back home to me, right? Yeah, I'm not sure if I completely lost the question, I think, here.
No, I think this is fascinating. So that happened at 17, the Jesus episode, and then you go into university, right? And you talked about that right before. I can't even imagine. It reminds me of that show with Russell Crowe, Beautiful Mind. Where he's walking around and his aspects are walking with him the whole time, and you find out they're not people at the end. God, I can't even imagine that. See, I've never had that level of that type of experience. It might have been a bit different, but that's fascinating to me. And so then you end up kind of shutting it down. Then you have the wake up experience type of thing, and it all starts to come back. See, another, like I just keep wanting to say this again and again, because there's very few people that I've met, me included. I'm still working on it, but I just pick up on that whole unaffected. Like I know, I know on a personal level that you've just, like, for instance, gone through something that was pretty serious in your, let's say, in your closest circle. Even touching base with you around that time, just because that's how it happened, your energy just seemed unmoved.
Yes. With my father, right? With my
Yeah,
dad.
yeah, it just seemed unaffected. Like I don't know how to say this, but like, I don't want to say like you're not falling back on the program, or you're not stuck on the grid, kind of something like that. Like you're literally being that which you've come into in your own
Hmm.
right, right?
You
And
know,
you're
it's all shifted on solstice actually for me. And that I've just remembered that this is sort of what you've asked before, and I sort of went off on a tangent. But yes, you know, it's not that it has been this way always, for sure. I was, you know, there were times where I could get triggered, especially in an abandonment wound. That's what started my awakening, really, because I went through what I don't know, I could describe, you know, there's so many ways to describe it, but what I could call a catalyst um, counterpart experience, which awakened me because I had this remembrance like, oh my gosh, I recognize this energy. And then because we were on different continents, he was in Australia, we couldn't be together, that things just couldn't happen, and I couldn't understand why. Uh, and it threw me completely, you know, into a big spin. And the abandonment wound was the big one for me. Took me probably 2 years to get through that, to get up again, right? But at the same time, once I did, I was told that this energy wasn't really there. It was there just to trigger me.
right,
It like visited, right? It visited just so I could heal this. So then when it really comes, I don't get triggered and things get smoother, and that union can actually happen,
right.
right? So it was the same sort of energy, but it was, as I say, I wanted to call it visiting there just for a bit, right? To create that awakening experience for me. Um, so now, like, if I fast forward it, you know, I went through that healing process for a few years, and then I was sort of leveled, you know, but still getting triggered now and again, but very quickly sort of balancing myself back up, right? But something's changed in on solstice last year. So solstice 2022.
Summer solstice or winter?
Winter,
Oh,
winter
oh yeah.
solstice.
Yeah.
It was, you know, I've experienced a very strange disconnect for about 3 days, which I laughed at. It's like 3 days of my version of 3 days of darkness, where it felt like I was, like I wasn't in. Like my body was vacated for 3 days. Um, I am able to like constantly always feel the connection between me and my counterpart. It's an ongoing thing. So I can always feel it. For 3 days, I could not feel that. I could not feel any other people I tried to connect to. I could not feel any feelings, emotions. It was the weirdest experience ever. And after 3 days, it's like I wolfed back in. Right? And from then on, I don't recall being triggered, right?
Wow. That's
I
that's
mean, you know,
powerful.
things come, and as you know, like, so my dad had in October, he had a stroke, and as they examined what was happening, they found that he has cancer. Um, I had to rush because I live in UK and they live in Poland, my parents do. So I had to quickly rush, you know, because they said he's not going to make it a day, you know. Um, and I kept surprisingly calm. I did have a, you know, a cry,
Yeah.
uh, packing my things and thinking, okay, I need to pack some black things just in case, you know, and things like that. But that was still in October. But now, after the solstice, he had another operation just recently where he could not make it. But he did, thankfully, and it was beautiful. It was quite miraculous, and he's doing so well. It's incredible. But it was all beautiful.
Hmm.
And even in that experience in October, my heart was just so full. And I realized that that change in perception, change in my own energy, changed everything. The whole reality became a miracle.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
the whole experience.
That's a great, I'm gonna have to remember that one. The whole reality is a miracle.
Yeah.
To get
And
to
that,
a point of awareness where the whole reality, you see it for the miracle with it. Oh wow, that's
yeah,
great.
that's how it feels to me now. And you know how people say be in gratitude and all these things. From the place I'm in now, it's so easy. It's so easy because I'm genuinely just grateful.
Yeah.
Like, my dad coming out of this surgery, even going to this surgery, his attitude, the way he approached everything, the fact that they when even in October when they found the tumor, he was like, "Oh, this is so great that I've had this stroke." Like my
Oh,
body loves me because now I know I have cancer and we can do something about it, right? Um, so everything in my reality, including now my parents, and it just reflects that miracle that, yeah, it's quite amazing. And one of the things, as you mentioned at the beginning, that the zoology that you can see as there in the background, that's what I felt, that I'm holding that
wow.
energy of miracle for it. And I'm not claiming that I'm all enlightened and or it's my sort of um thanks to me or anything like that, but I feel it in my bones. That I'm holding that space of that miracle of everything is possible, of us all experiencing our highest and best and heaven, whatever you want to call it.
Wow. And do you attribute anything like primarily or specifically uh be I mean the period was this 3 days and it was a solstice and the things that happened, but is there anything that you attribute it to in terms of what you did in your own inner work, or was it something that just kind of came like a wave and you went in to the void and came out the other side like this?
I think I was ready for that, right? I think I reached some point, wherever that point is, where I was ready to be like wiped clean.
Did you have to come to terms with masculine energy or the male and also the female or feminine energy? Did
Hmm.
you have to come to terms? Was there any type of? I'm just like looking for
Yes.
pieces of morsels of of
Yeah.
potential that we could apply ourselves through your story.
I find, okay, so I had to get to the point where each trigger, I'm an overachiever in that way. I'm like, where's the trigger? Where's the trigger? Show me the trigger. Let's work on it.
Right.
And so I've been like that. And I have appreciated having the mirror of my masculine to trigger that. Like, you know, when he moves away, when he is not in my presence, what does it bring up for me? What do I feel?
Wow.
And I literally used each trigger to go deeper and deeper. But what's interesting is for so long, because I understand that what we focus on, we manifest, right? That's what our reality becomes. And for a while, it led me on a wild goose chase within myself because I avoided looking at the fact that um, at the pain of separation,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm not going to look at this separation because if I focus on it, because if I admit that it's
Right.
painful to be separated,
Right.
that's what I'm going to recreate and recreate. So I wasn't looking at that abandonment. And one day it just hit me. I was like, I'm abandoning myself. I'm abandoning this part of me that's saying, oh my God, I miss being together, right?
Okay.
And I'm just sort of shushing, like, shh, don't say anything because I'm manifesting this amazing thing here, right? Let's not look at that. and and I sat in my bedroom for like an hour or so, and I walked down. If you imagine yourself, your aspects as, I don't know, floors or elevator,
Mm.
I could see in my third eye, I could see my own self down there, part of me that was so hurt, right? And so alone. But I was refusing to acknowledge that.
Wow, this is powerful.
So I got down there and I could see I'm here being my own higher self and my human self
At the same time.
at the same time. And I can see I'm being both, and yet I'm walking towards myself, right? And I've embraced myself, and I'm like, I'm never, ever, ever abandoning you again.
Wow, that's
And it
powerful.
made me realize this was it. I was like,
Hmm.
this why I was being abandoned is because I am abandoning myself.
Myself.
The
Yeah.
exam is just reflecting that,
Man, this
right?
is if you don't say anything else the rest of the show, this is all that's like the perfect for me because oh, it's so amazing how these things are happening, you know, that physical synchronicity, this sequential unfoldment
Uh-huh.
like just is it yesterday or the day before yesterday? Um, I was I kind of came to the same place. I got triggered
Mm-hmm.
because of uh, the linear aspect, right? Separation, you know,
Yeah.
um,
Mm-hmm.
because information came out that it's going to take longer now, right?
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
So, and I guess I kind of knew that, or it was told to me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, she told me, but it didn't register with me because in my mindset I was shooting for this date, like this time later in
Yeah.
the year, and so nothing had whatever I was told it didn't have an impact on me. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I would have told you that that never happened, but I know it did because she told me it did. So what happened? So then I started to get emotional, and I
Mm-hmm.
excused myself, and I went, which I've learned to do the last 4 years. I went and sat with my emotions. But the thing that struck me was my body. My body said, "It's right here." It was just to the left, lower chest. I'm not sure if this is the upper kidney, but it's like
Yeah.
lower rib cage on the left hand side.
Wow.
So, um, I, I I I noticed that my body was very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so when I went into sitting with the feeling, so I wasn't like, oh my God, it's going to be longer, and you know, and that
Yeah.
type of thing. It wasn't like that. It was just feeling that pain,
Mm-hmm.
feeling that suffering, feeling that missing her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and then I came out of it like so and I cried and you know went through the normal purging stuff
Yeah.
and then I woke up the next morning yesterday and I was good. You know, I was like, you know what? Because I realized that all this time I have been burdened by the separation. That's what I was carrying with me. And so when I woke up, I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I even talked to her, you know,
Wow.
after
Yeah.
that, and I said, I'm not going to allow this illusion of separation to be in the field for me anymore. I'm not doing it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it
Yeah,
was,
because that's what
but
we play it out, right? Because if we keep it there because we don't want to look at it, we don't want to feel it.
Right.
That's we keep it in place.
Well, see, but you just explained, you just connected the dots full circle for me because I had some of it. I could
Mhm.
feel it and figure, but the fact of what you said, okay, so because what you're saying is, it's 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 not acknowledging the missing is ignoring, okay, but is also giving life to the illusion of separation.
Yes, exactly that. Yep.
See, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've had all these experiences. We've had all these experiences of all these incarnations and shape shift. You know, all the years. You know, the stuff that we put out, and then to be handicapped by this.
Hmm.
But you just explained it perfectly. I set this up, uh, this physical separation, so that I could find the part of me that I was not acknowledging. And what was I doing? I was doing shows and I was doing festivals and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, basically like a wounded healer.
Hmm.
And I'm doing, and what am I doing with my partner and other people? I'm probably projecting a little bit here, a little bit there, and as a result of this life being given to this illusion of separation, all these stories come from it.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. So
she
you're
said,
carrying the pain
right,
and yeah.
right. So all this stuff becomes like its own little tree of life that's not even real. And so now you've really
Yeah.
explained it. So what I'm doing, or what I did, because I didn't know it,
Hmm.
was sitting or accepting and allowing that, which wasn't really pain and suffering. It was just missing. That's all, right? I mean, it's just
Yeah,
like this is what I want, and I don't have it right now, and that's
exactly.
okay. That's all right.
Yeah,
Does it change? Does it lessen love?
not
Does
at
it?
all.
You know what I mean? In
Hmm.
fact, to me, it would increase it.
Yeah, it
You know?
just lets it free, right? That energy that is just held up there,
Mm,
it just becomes free to love, to
mm.
create. So I think
Wow.
that's the path, right?
Wow,
To
that's just gold because now I'm sitting here thinking about what was I doing besides the wounded healer thing, right? Besides helping other people, and therefore you're not. What was I doing? I was creating conversations and taking actions and having thoughts and all this stuff based on the false reality that the separation even exists.
yeah,
Okay, so all these things come off of it, and I'm like living my life through these things, right? But the reality is, uh, and it's so simple the way you put it, because I love it when it's put into the human mundane, right? Or is that the key? You mean the key is to be like human, like so to actually accept my sadness,
hmm,
and what am I doing? I'm accepting my love. I'm accepting my
yeah,
love for
because that
her.
is,
Right.
the sadness, the missing, it just shows you the love, the strength
Right.
of that love, right?
Yeah.
It's all the pain that you're feeling is just a reflection of the enormity of the love.
Yeah.
So it's just accepting that.
I, I, you see, you're helping me again too, because over the last few weeks, I've picked up on something. See if I can pick it up again. So, what it was? What were you just saying? You were saying that accepting the pain of
Yeah, because
love.
it's sort of a reflection of how strong the love is, right?
Yes, 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 yes. God, I lost it. It was helping me though. It was sort of like a related threads, a kind of like a
Mm.
pattern. Uh, and I think let me see if I can pull it back up. But I think it had to do with what you're talking about. I mean, and maybe it'll come back in a little bit. But it was a big one, and yeah, this is so freeing. It's so freeing. Oh, I know what it was. Okay, what I
Mhm.
started to notice in myself and my playmates, and life, right? I started to notice or understand that anything such as this is there. So, let's say um, insecurity, doubt, uh,
Yeah.
suspicion, fear, jealousy, envy, all these things. So they're all different faces. I used to call it the charismatic children of fear, right?
Mhm.
So they're all there, and we do exactly what you said. We don't acknowledge it. Like in your case, we don't acknowledge the missing. So what I figured out was this stuff is there anyway.
Mhm.
So the way out is to acknowledge that it's there.
Mhm.
Now you can have a
Yeah.
real conversation with yourself when you can say, "Hey, look, I am insecure. Hey, I was carrying shame up, for many, many years, and until about a month ago. You know, I mean, I ignored it. If you asked me, do you feel any shame? I would have said, no, I've done that. But no, that's not true. It was still there, right? So I love this intel because it's so human. And I know we've heard it, sit with your emotions, sit with how you feel, but this is like next level because this is like breakthrough level. Like that's what you did. You came out the other side as a
Yeah, because
result. Yeah.
everything shifted from then.
Yeah.
And it reflected in my reality because I think a week later, my masculine external masculine mirror, my counterpart, has came back to my life to communicate. So it was literally just, as within, so without. It was the process that I needed, and it gave me this different perspective, this gratitude. Like, I'm so grateful that you had the strength, conscious or unconscious, to walk away so I could get there, so I could,
Oh wow, that's
right,
deep, man.
go
That's
down.
that's deep.
So,
That's really deep.
and
So,
that also changed a lot in that dynamic, right? So, where I no longer see it, I no longer take it personal, or
so
rather
you,
take it
so,
completely personal, right? As in an opportunity to heal and grow.
so
So,
you reached a point where you found gratitude and really honor and
mm,
reverence for your counterpart stepping away.
yeah.
So when that happens, and this is what we've been talking about, we get caught up in a story, right?
Hmm.
I did this, or I didn't do this, or he or she did this, or didn't do this, or whatever the case is. But you actually reached this point where you realize at a soul level that it was the best thing to do, right? Like
Yeah.
like they actually honored themselves by doing what they had to do, which
Hmm.
wasn't the catastrophe that we think it is, but it's the gift. All we got to do is
Yeah.
see the gift. Yeah, this is wild.
And the thing is, one of the things that characterizes connection is the fact that I know he sees through me completely and I see through him. And it might be scary if there is something you're not comfortable with yourself, right? But it's the biggest gift. There is no, pardon my language, bullshitting somebody like this. And it's the greatest gift,
That's true
right?
too. That's true too.
And
Yeah.
I wanted to also mention that this keeps coming up to my awareness that I've had this thing shown to me in meditation where I could see myself. So I was meditating and suddenly I started chanting, I guess, this, I would say, some Native American sort of chanting, right? And I could see myself um, singing, let's say, call it singing, because it was sort of like a song, a chant, but like a song over the dead body of my counterpart. Um, it was sort of, I was singing this as a goodbye, to him. And then the next thing I could see, and I could feel all the emotions and everything. I knew that it was him and me just in different bodies. And then the next thing I had seen was us. Like as I was singing it, I suddenly my voice changed into a young voice. Because then before that, sorry, I should have mentioned I was at older age, right? I was, I don't know, about 80, 70, 80 when he passed. And I was then shown that my voice changed completely to like a young woman's voice. And then I'm seeing him walking towards me, also young, and I'm singing the same song. And that was part of how we've met or how we,
Mm.
part of our past. And then then I've heard the words that said, that in that lifetime you've experienced the love and happiness to begin with, and it ended with grief, like the loss and sorrow. But what's going to happen in this lifetime, and that's what we're going to, is you're first going to experience grief and loss and abandonment, and that pain. But then all that's going to be left is that union together and happiness.
God, this is deep. This is really, really deep. I mean, this is
That's what
deep.
I feel we're doing, right?
I mean, all I can say is that, it's funny how you hear things, but and maybe it's just a matter of, I'm ready, or some a person's ready, but when you
Mm-hmm.
feel things, like what you just said this time, it's like the third gold nugget. I mean, like what you just said. I mean, there is a part of me that innately, you know, God, how do I say this without getting too specific? But that knows, and there's more than one meaning to this, but that this is the
Mm-hmm.
greatest fucking love story ever, ever.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm. I
when
have no
more
doubt either.
right when Morgan and I, when Morgan went back to Australia in
Yeah.
April, two plus years ago, so 2 years and 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Um, Obviously, that was very difficult for us, but we knew at some level there was some meaning to it. Uh, and I closed my eyes the last night, and I don't normally get this type of answer, but I said, "How long is it going to be?" And I got this number in my. I saw the number. It literally like somebody wrote it,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, "Oh my God, are you serious?"
Yeah.
No way. And I told her what I just saw, and she made made a face, and then took her to the airport the next day. And I've thought about it a lot, but just in the last couple of days, I think it's actually last night. It was last night because I had an incredible connection last night. You know, when you have them so incredible and you can't remember a damn thing that happened. I just remember going, "Whoa,
Yeah.
I'm way out here." You know, it was so. It was like it was so pure godliness. It was me. You know, it was
Mm-hmm.
just amazing. But
Yeah.
the way I went into it was I said, you know what? I can accept, I can love this number that they gave me. For what I
Mm,
can, from what I can comprehend of it, because I really don't know, because we never know. Everything's metaphorical, and it could just be, you know what I mean. But it
yeah.
was the energy of it, which would be years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I accept this. It doesn't change a thing. Just like it doesn't change a thing that
That's
we're not standing
beautiful.
side by side, right? And it was a powerful, powerful thing. So it was at the same time I accepted, kind of like you could say it like this: never being together, always together, and
Yeah.
then collapse. And then that's kind of where I was, and it shot me out. I do remember that it shot me out like I've never, like I was out of my body, full force.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't get was to be able to look back at my body. I didn't do that. But I got shot out, and it was in this I was in this field of the, I guess you could say, it looked like the void or the cosmos, but it was so thick. It was like I could feel every particle on
Mm,
my skin
yeah.
of invisibility, or whatever. Yeah. And that's where that was the ticket. So maybe there's something happening.
Yeah, I feel that. This is something I do strongly feel, and it connects to that inner alignment with yourself too, right?
Mm,
And the time, the date we get, the whatever, in that moment, in that alignment, 0 point, that date doesn't matter because it's now, right?
right.
So wherever we get there, we get there. And yeah, I think you've done an amazing thing
I don't
to
know. Well, I
zero
don't.
point it.
I feel like it's more of I just happen to be conscious of it, or so. I don't think it was just me. I think that's
Hmm.
what I'm saying. Like with what you're talking about, and you're right. It's not linear, but like what happened to you and right after solstice. That you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like I could feel that when you were talking about that and explaining it, and I got like, wait, this just happened to me. Like, and she's explaining what just happened to me, or what's happening to me.
Yeah, so it's not just us, right? We can tell that it's not just us because we all going through it, and that's what we're going through, like that, right? That image, that metaphor of of seeing me at his deathbed, right? And deathbed, and then the beginning of the story. We are going through that death first. So we have to, all the things, we need to grieve it. We need to grieve the things, accept that it hurts, accept
Ah,
all that, right?
wow.
And let it all out in a way. Let it all out. Let yourself be heard on a very deep level. You be your own witness.
Yeah.
Um,
God, that story though, that vision that you talked about is such a powerful metaphor to be young lovers, right? I'm sorry, to be old lovers saying goodbye at the end of an incarnation,
mhm.
and then to immediately shift into these young lovers, and the song connects them. That's the
Yeah.
coding, right? It's such a great metaphor for what you're describing that's occurred to you and probably all of us in this incarnation. So it's
Yep.
like you say goodbye, you grieve it, you let it go, so to speak, right? And
Yeah.
instead of
And
it,
you have to accept it that it hurts. You
right,
just have to,
right,
you can't bypass that.
right, and then like then you, instead of leaving the body and starting a new life like in your vision, you're doing it in the same body.
Yeah.
That's you know what I mean. That has like the
Mhm.
characteristics of of what people talk about ascending in the body. And
Yes.
and if we've learned
Yes, I think.
anything, if we learned anything, these aren't one time things. They keep happening. They keep loop spiraling, spiraling, spiraling.
Yeah.
So that's a really good sign, I think, a really powerful sign.
Yeah. And I have no doubt that we're coming to the point where everything that is not in alignment with us falls away. We just, I feel the truth is getting so loud, and whatever isn't is as loud too, right? For
Yes.
it's not being in alignment. And there is a point where you can't force yourself.
No.
You just can't. It's like, I sometimes I feel, and my counterpart also laughs about that, the free will thing might not
It,
be really the case, that really what's in charge is the higher power within us, that eventually the defenses of the human wear off. Or don't even want to say the human, because it's not the human, it's the programming.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the thing that we've been told that we are, but we are not. That wears off.
Yeah.
It can't hold against the truth, right?
Yeah. I want people to understand what she just said. So it goes back to what she said earlier about you're able to see through your counterpart, and your counterpart is able to see through you,
Yeah, I know it
regardless.
freaked you out
Re,
many times,
you know what I mean?
but
Like, but a lot of this is the value of the mirror that triggers, right? Because these are the things that now an aspect of us can see in us, and our
Mhm.
human is in resistance, in defense,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean. And so,
Yeah, because there's such a value, and I don't think we appreciate this enough in honesty, in somebody. It takes so much strength and courage to say something that's uncomfortable to hear.
it takes strength to say it, and it takes more strength to hear it.
Yeah.
That's where the real work is done with these couples, I believe, is being able to listen. Now, it's one thing, and that's the other thing. It can't be one-sided.
Hmm.
We can't
Yeah.
be examining one side in the majority versus the other, right?
Yeah, because
And
then it's a blame, right? It turns
right,
into a blame. But
right,
in these connections, there is such knowing of love,
right,
right?
right.
That you know that it's not coming from any other place but love.
You,
And
you,
that what makes it so precious, because you just know that you saying this out of love, even if it uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. Well, and then what you said too, that I connected back to the whole seeing through each other, is what did you say? Y'all laugh about the free will thing. That to me is another thing that at some point is mutually accepted. Like, uh, you could kind of say it a lot of ways, but kind of like, look, we're stuck with each other. That's pretty much it. I mean,
Yeah,
you know what I
we're
mean?
gonna
It's
come
like,
back each time to sort this shit out.
yeah, you can go and have you can go move to the other whatever you can go do something, go date, whatever you want to do. It's not going to go away. It's
Yeah,
not going to go away.
and it can be looked at, oh my God, it's never gonna go away. But when you look at it in its truth, thank
Yeah,
God it's not going away, right? Because it's the most amazing thing that you could ever experience.
it can be put off. It can be delayed. It can be denied, ignored, and I think when that occurs, it makes total sense what you said earlier. There will be a separation. There will be a separation because the only way to see what it actually is to get that shit out of the way that's not allowing it to be what it is. And what is
Yeah,
that? What you described so perfectly. That it's the well, you said the programming, but it is that it is a human part of us, I think, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it's a part of us that we would have never discovered unless we came here. What you're talking about, what you're coming to and sharing with us is the other side, getting through the other side of it. Well, if I am very human and I sit with these human emotions and I'm forced into separation so I can, get there, now what happens? There is a transformation, and that transformation shows up in my personal life, but also in this connection.
yeah, yeah. And it transforms so quickly. I was so surprised how quickly that abandonment wound dissolved, literally right there and then. Somehow, within an hour, I came out of that meditation no longer feeling that, and I have not felt that.
No
I
longer,
felt echoes of it, maybe,
no longer
but
feeling
that
separation. No longer
no
feeling this.
longer feeling separation, no longer
Right.
feeling abandoned,
Oh.
right? Because I came back for myself, right? I reunited with my own self. I haven't felt that separation. And yeah, and even then, even though that separation again occurred in a physical, it didn't affect me the same way because I could see it for the gift for me and him, and I know it's probably has a more reaching effects, like in terms of collective, right? Because all that we do on a personal level affects everybody else. So, and I trust, right? I trust and I know that there's no way from this human perspective I can see a bigger picture. Um, so I've seen enough to trust in the bigger picture. Things, confirmations, miracles. I want to say, even though it's
Wow.
when we look from above, it's not that. Yeah.
So, do you have? God, this is so deep. Like, I don't even want to ask like curious questions. I want to be like, this is
Go
this is
ahead.
this is like pure code. But um, God, I'm just feeling into everything you talked about. I'm trying to like see your perspective or feel your perspective, but it feels like this. I guess the way I would put it is maybe you can add on to this or confirm it or say it's not the way it is, but it's like you have given up in a good way the
Hmm.
element the element of control, the element of uh, exceptions. I accept you, universe, except for these two, three things. As long as those things stay the way they are, then everything's cool.
Yeah.
Like I want to be with them now, or or I need to change this habit, or they need to act a certain way, or whatever these absolutes are. or it
Hmm.
has to be this way, our life has to be this way. So it feels like that you have have um, I would call it let go of the need to control, let go,
Yeah,
getting out of your own way, allowing it
because
to,
that's what we do, right? Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's not that I don't have these moments when I'm like, oh, I think if this happens, right? I can, it's sort of, I'm like drawing a little path in my head. Okay, maybe how this could work, right? And that's how this works. I do, I still have my human mind that tries to figure out, like, oh, maybe this, that's when, and maybe that's what happens. Maybe that's what happens. And I try and tap in and figure it out. But ultimately, every time it comes to the same point, it's like, it happens. It will happen. It is there already. It is there. I can already feel it. I know it's there the same way as I knew that it would be at some point, even for those moments. And it was,
Mm,
right? And it will be, always will be. So,
wow. I feel like that these connections, just based on my experience and whatever, that in the perfect design, which we can look at and go, and understand everything from outside of it, right? Looking at everything is designed by us and all that. But in the experience of it, just like you're talking about with the separation and the missing and all that, um, there's there was a significant force pushing against us.
yeah, no,
To,
that's for sure.
I feel like that's at a very very deep level,
Mhm.
that I think it's becoming easier, or it's less, or it's becoming less of a factor, but definitely feel like that. I hate to put it in those terms because how I feel about things, but yeah, in the story, stuff trying to come between and trying to
Yeah,
not keep it from happening. Do you feel that way? Have you had experiences that would
I
lend to
feel to a
that?
degree.
Yeah.
Yes, I do feel to a degree. And the thing is, people in our lives act as the agents in a way. The people who are acting
Hmm.
very unconscious are manipulated to come between these,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because they're vulnerable. But I also see it from another point where I feel it's still all part of a big design.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like proving the point we can come together against all odds, right? Stack them
Exactly.
all. We're gonna go in and do it again, and I'm gonna find you again. I'm gonna get to you again. I'm gonna, get rid of all my fears. I'm going to let go of everything that is not love, right? That is
Right.
not me. That is not you. True, you. And I'm not saying just in the counterparts relationships and connections, in everybody. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna meet you heart to heart, being to being, pure soul
Yes.
to pure soul.
Yes. Yeah.
And
That
it's a challenge.
that's
I feel we've set it up, and which comes also from the fact that I have this strong knowing that we
right.
can overcome everything.
Right.
And we wouldn't come and do this if we didn't know that.
No. And yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to. I think what it comes down to is the mutual commitment, not the human word, the mutual acknowledgement of the feelings, the mutual acknowledgement of the history, of all the things that have uh, kind of presented us what we know innately and intuitively. Like the fairy tale aspect, this is the way these couples come together and the things that happen, right? Like all that stuff, all the dimensional experiences together, all the merging together, all of that stuff being acknowledged,
Yeah.
because let's face it, we're not, just like we didn't with ourselves, right? We're not acknowledging it with each other,
Yeah.
because there's these things in the, the we're in our own way. And so
Yeah.
to me, there's something extremely powerful. Some people could say, like you were talking about with your counterpart, free will just goes out the window because of whatever the higher selves want to happen is going to happen. Well, it's like that, but it's also like when there's just like with you, consciously sitting with the missing, the results of the separation, the feelings of the separation, to then get to this point where you see the gift that it is, and you actually,
Yeah.
instead of, you know, having a repressed anger with your counterpart, you have this reverence and say thank you, and you mean it,
Hmm.
and you actually mean it.
I
You mean it. I can
completely
feel
mean
it.
it
Yeah.
because, and then it becomes that it doesn't trigger you because whatever does even slightly does, it's like, that that's your next step to that union, right? Within and
Yes.
without, because it's in a way you begin to look for, like in my case, I began to look for it, like, okay, what's next? What do we need to dissolve next to be who we truly are?
What,
So
can
it's a
you?
treasure hunt.
Can, yeah. It's yeah. What is it? What do they call it when you go scavenger hunt?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's just
what
like that.
So can you give an example without getting too, I don't want you to go
Yeah.
personal, but like, can you give an example of like, okay, because I look at it this way, like we say that we're shadow workers, right?
Mhm.
But what I've come to find out as we get down to the nitty gritty, and these relationships are so good for yourself to really hold yourself accountable, I guess. And that is that if you're going to be a shadow worker or a shadow eater, because
Yeah.
ultimately that's what it is.
Hmm.
Sometimes we tell ourselves that we are a shadow eater, but we're actually a shadow eat, and we are when it's convenient. That's
Yeah,
what that's the talk I had with myself. I said you can't just say you're a shadow. So I really like what you're saying. It fits and resonates with me. So how do you do that? Like you say, okay, what's next?
as a specific example.
Oh,
Um, okay. Well, for example, as you know how intense these connections are. Um, when we first saw each other, right? On a video, like face to face,
mm,
it was super intense and it did trigger a separation eventually, not straight away, but it probably was the starting point of that.
right,
And so at first, so insecurities then come in, right? I was like, oh, maybe it's something about me. Maybe maybe I don't look certain way. Maybe you know, and then you're like, okay, this is that's what our work is now, right? So it's those sort of each time where something feels, not of love really
right,
inside of us,
right,
that needs
right.
looking at, that needs embracing and seeing why do you feel that, you know um you need
Yeah,
more love in here, basically give yourself that love.
right.
um and you pour love into those places, those spaces that get triggered, because then that dissolves, really, just simple as that, it just dissolves. I don't know if that's sort of an example.
That's a great. I mean, this is not just words. I can feel it.
Yeah.
No, because I mean, like you said, of what is not love. I mean, and to go from a place of saying to yourself, because we all do it, not just with our lovers, we do it with everyone, right?
Yeah.
Uh, that they're saying or directing something towards me that's not love. Okay,
Hmm.
and kind of like the separation thing you talked earlier, where you actually see the gift of what they're generating towards you that you were processing and projecting as, oh, they're not of love. But
Yeah.
I ordered that. We ordered that together. We designed that together so I could feel that. Wow, that hurts. That
Yeah.
hurts. That hurts. That really hurts me. And and so then it becomes like you said, you sit with it, and this I can relate to this, especially the last few couple of months, whatever, and then it becomes, you sit with it, and then it becomes something that you may or may not have to communicate. And what I'm finding out for me,
Mhm.
I'm not saying anybody else, what I'm finding out for me is that when I sit with it and that hurt becomes whole again,
Yeah.
I don't have to say anything.
Hmm.
I no longer have to speak my mind. Okay?
Exactly that.
I don't. I just sit there and I go, wow, I don't have to say anything. Well,
No, because
I,
the reality will speak back to you.
yeah,
That's what you already now achieved, right?
yeah. Wow.
So it
This
will
is,
speak. The silence will speak because everything that happens from then on reflects that new level of consciousness. So
I mean, it's just like, if I look at the words, I love you, I mean, have those words been overused a lot, over the years? And, were they used to get some kind of externalization and, validation and confirmation? I think it's time because a lot of things have changed, right? I think we can start to use certain words that got tainted, or you know what I
mm,
mean? And I think it's time to say, I love you. I
yeah.
mean, like, if we're going to talk about all these purported problems that we have and
Mhm.
things like that and work all this stuff, why can't we talk about how much we love each other?
Yeah. Because
Why
that
can't
is
we?
so healing
Right?
when it's said with energy behind it, with
Yeah,
conviction. If it's actually a true expression,
that's my
it's
point.
healing.
That's my point. That's my point right there. When you're in the shit, okay? When you're in the
Hmm.
shit and you don't feel good, and I have to go back to making the music with Ty, and I go look for that spot, you know, what am I feeling right now? Because like most of us, I'm not feeling lottie fucking da all day long every day, you know. I got a lot of things going on, and at the heart of it is my relationship with myself, and then which to me is one and the same, and with my counterpart. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, like have you ever been? I mean, think about it. You're seeing it happen the last few years. All these catastrophes, and then people pulling together, regardless of the government and the fuckery and the Illuminati and all that stuff. They pull together.
Yeah.
What is that? That's actions of, I love you.
Yeah.
We're the same, and I love you. Don't forget why we're here. Don't
That's
forget
so
why we're
beautiful.
here, right? You
Exactly
know what I
that.
mean?
Yeah.
We came here for this. And what I'm
Hmm.
saying is that's a great example of how, we all often think, okay, well, everything's got to be cleaned up and polished and pristine, and our place has got to be the right energetic, almost like an OCD kind of standpoint. Now I can tell you I love you. Come into,
Yes.
okay,
When you
no,
see me at
it's,
my worst,
yeah, see me at
it's
my
full.
worst. See me when I'm on the gutter, See me when my hair's messed up. See me when I haven't shaved. See me when I've messed my drawers or peed my pants or vomited
Yeah,
or,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know. And
exactly that. And
hey,
I love you still. Yeah.
you know, to be able to say that, uh, is a powerful, powerful thing. I think we're ready. I think
I
since
think we're
this,
ready
I do, since this
because that's what
solstice.
we're hiding,
Yeah,
because we don't feel that we would be loved if everybody else saw us, right? So that's when we go and sort of retract to the
yeah,
shadows. And the truth is, all you need to do is stand there in who you are. And that bravery, in that I've read somewhere a long time ago that the biggest strength, the the biggest bravery is the vulnerability, right?
yeah,
That's our biggest, that's when you completely invulnerable,
yeah.
when you're fully vulnerable, right? Because you are like water that if you shoot an arrow at it, it's going to go through because you don't tense up and accept that as coming at you, right? Um,
Yeah, it's super powerful. It's the way to go. It's the path ahead of us, and I think that's how we started the show, talking about you and those like you that don't want to step up. That
yeah.
seriously, they don't want to step up. It's not something they want to do, but they don't
Hmm.
have a choice. They don't have a choice.
Yeah,
And
I
I
feel
think,
that way. It's yeah,
yeah,
I felt like that. Like I was resisting in some way,
yeah,
but yet the calling
yeah,
that it's time
yeah.
was there.
And
So
every single, particularly those like you, every single one of them. Okay, I mean, they're. I mean, it's. I'm sure that it's super scary. You know, and I think that's a
yeah, I
part.
was shaking for a bit today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but
But as
the
soon as I got in, it's fine. But yeah.
I know, and then you have those like you that we talked about at the beginning that make up this community, that make up the world, really.
Yeah.
Uh, they see a reflection of themselves in someone like you who steps through
Yeah.
and then they do it,
Hmm.
right? I mean, she, if you want to put it in those terms, she, and that's a she and me too, she
Yeah.
must be seen. I am not the same person I was in 2022.
Hmm.
I have a deep uh, I'm deeply in touch with my feminine and masculine. I'm not there like you. I'm not there either yet, right? But I know one thing, that in a given moment, just like this whole conversation and the conversation with Jesse, for the most part,
Yeah.
th- this is uh, this is a space where, other than limiting, say, descriptions and specificities because of personal, personal things that are personal, we're
Yeah.
not there yet. To be actually be able to talk and be vulnerable, like be vulnerable. To me, that's
Yeah.
like whether I do a spirit walk or do a show or do a song, like I don't know that I can get there all the time, but I can certainly put myself at least in a position to do that, and that's
Yeah.
that's a nerve wracking.
I feel ready for that. I could it's just my boundaries are just other people's boundaries, right?
Yeah,
So the things I don't share is just to protect others,
yeah,
their truth and their story. So, but it feels it's connected to that readiness, that feeling called to step up. That
yeah.
there is, yeah, that's here I am, you know.
I feel it. I mean, I feel it right now. My third eye's exploding right now. Right now, I've had chills the whole time. I feel that, and we're in that Syrian gateway too,
Yes.
and then the 777 thing, which is crazy.
Oh, I've seen, I think I've mentioned it to you. I've got 777 for ages. Then I was traveling for my dad's operation on the bus 777.
Oh my
Then
god.
I flew over, and then I got into the car and I was on the 777 route. I was like, okay, I get it. I
No,
get
it's
it. It's
huge.
going
It's
to
there.
be.
There's something huge about it. There's something just dynamically huge. Like, to me, it feels like somebody's shooting a starter pistol in the air for the second half of the year. Like,
Yeah.
I know the second half of the year is going to be absolutely amazing. I know it is,
Yeah.
and I just know it. I can feel it. I can feel the network. I can, like in my own life, the network and my connection, my relationship, the festival. Everything converges.
Hmm.
Everything converges. The things that don't get into the wake of your life, the things
Yeah.
that they will come, but you can't pull them. You
Hmm.
know, you can't
Yeah.
force them. You just keep doing your thing and hold that space and know that's the mother. The
Yeah.
mother is. I remember being told to hold space from my field in a collective sense, personal sense, whatever, in March of 2020, and it kept
Hmm.
coming in. You got to hold space now. You got to hold space.
Yeah.
I thought for a long time that was my masculine, and I'm not saying it's
Okay.
not involved, but I
Hmm.
realize now. I realize now, all this time, that's my feminine. That's my mother goddess in me.
Yeah.
Is to be
The
able to
soft
hold space
landing is something I've been getting over and over. The soft landing. She's the soft landing for him to land
and
by
build.
her side.
That
Yeah.
makes
And
sense.
Bill.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. It really
And the
does.
power of that. you know,
Yeah.
we have not seen anything like that yet, or can't even comprehend. We've got these, I don't know, echoes that we can feel, but I would say it's going to be another level
Oh, there's
as
no
we go
doubt.
through.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Yeah, because we know, you know, how the energy that comes from that point of union, where you just fully surrendered to that,
Yeah.
to that merging between you two. It's like
Yeah.
you've got, I don't know how to even describe it. So it's so hard because the words just don't make, you know, give it justice. Make it justice. It's just like everything is love, everything. So whole reality could shift in that moment because
Yeah.
it just it yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Words don't cut it, I'm afraid.
Well, and that's where that mutual acknowledgement comes in, I think.
Hmm.
Because if there's a mutual acknowledgement, 100%, get out of your way.
Yeah.
Because when we stand in our way, that is resistance, that is attachment, that is the greatest.
That's where the pain comes from.
Exactly.
Right?
That we talk about the fuckery that goes on with the those that think they're in power and da 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 da. The greatest fuckery is when we stand in our way, especially
Yeah.
now, because now the like you said, everything's getting louder.
Hmm.
And I remember something Sandra Walters said. We went to lunch a few years ago in Sedona with her, and she says, if you it's getting to the point where if you don't listen, your higher self, your soul is really going to embarrass the hell out of you. And that
Yeah.
stuck with me, and I thought, whoa, I'm going to remember that one. Like I'm going to listen, and I still go against the
Yeah.
grain sometimes,
Oh, we
but
do. All of us
yeah,
do. Yeah.
wow, wow, this is cool.
To the
So
line. I know it is.
I guess we're going to have to get Sarah on here next.
Yes. She might run and hide, but we know where she is.
Yeah, I mean, any of y'all, Marcella, uh, Millie, I've asked before, but a lot. Some of them, I don't. I do get that they're not going to come on because and they have a certain type of. I know quite a few of them.
Hmm.
Like they're typically those that have been like doing work for years and years and years, like 20 years and 25 years, and they work in the ethers, and they're like angels in human form. But yeah,
Yeah.
anybody that wants to come, come on and come out and play, don't be shy. Hit me up. Uh,
Yeah. You're just
and
gonna shake for a bit before, but as soon as you go on, you're fine.
she just said nope. Sarah's like
Yeah,
nope.
I've seen it.
Yeah, she's pretty adamant. We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
she
see.
is, I know.
Uh, well, thank you so much, Anna. I love you and I appreciate you. And it's been a great day for me. I'm gonna have to go lay down and get horizontal for a while because this is a lot to take in. This has really been incredible, and
Thank you.
I hope to see you in December, December 8th, 9th, and 10th
Oh gosh.
in
Today, I'll
Houston,
pencil that in the calendar.
Houston, Texas. Yeah, and yeah, and anybody else. It's going to be a hell of a festival. I know it is. I just I'm gonna after I lay down, I'm gonna work on it today, tomorrow, Saturday, and I'm hoping that we can unveil this on Sunday, and so start selling tickets, get the schedule out, figure out who's coming because it's going to be called Soulspeaks Fest. Everybody is a star. So this
Oh,
is
I
what
love
we've
that.
done in the before. We've done it before in the previous two, but in the gatherings that we would have when we pull into different towns and invite, have people gather. But
Yeah.
yeah, everybody that wants, anyone that wants to get up there and share a song or a poem or a musical thing or a dance or a channel or a story, it's the best part of the Soulspeaks Fest. It's the best part of Soulspeaks is listening to the things that you exhibit today for the last hour and 45 minutes. So thank you so
Yeah.
much. All
Thank
blessings.
you. Thank you as well, Todd. It was a pleasure. And thank you for holding space for my nervousness and helping dissipate, taking some on.
And
Thank you. Yeah.
healing, peace, love, and comfort to your father and your family as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Todd. Thank you.
Yeah, you take care. I'll be talking to
And
you
some
this
love to
weekend.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye bye. Bye everybody.
Bye.
Take care.